Hi everyone! Welcome to episode 3 of Composer of the Month. Today's episode is called 10 Questions with Alisa Sargsyan. She is a local Pacific Northwest composer hailing from Armenia. Her compositions have been performed in the USA, UK, Finland, Netherlands, Russia, Armenia, and Georgia. She is also a pianist and chamber musician. Hi, it's very nice to see you.
Hi, Nina. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Let's get started. My first question to you is, who or what are your biggest influences as a composer?
That's such a big question to start with. Let me think. Frankly, I grew up in a household where music was a heartbeat of daily life. And I was deeply inspired by my parents, who were themselves prominent musicians. I think my earliest childhood memories are filled with the sound of music. Music was composed, performed, and practiced in our home. Our living room was a gathering place for a lot of well-known musicians. They were rehearsing there, having late night discussions, and I sort of lived in it. So this immersion in the world of music made me just feel that it's an essential part of my life. And growing, I understood that music is not just a profession. It's a style of living. It's a way of existing.
Well, that's great that you had such an early start to, the world of music. I think that's truly a wonderful thing. And over the course of your career with composition, what kinds of genres have you explored?
Oh, it was actually very interesting because as every composer, I would say, I was under an influence of many styles and many composers and many genres, and it's normal. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how you look and search for your own style. And funny thing is, my evolution as a composer feels sort of like a walk through history, but in reverse, because I am a true romantic at heart. So I've started with music of Chopin, Rachmaninoff. I was deeply influenced by music of Scriabin, Shostakovich, Prokofiev, this complex musical world. But then my journey during my studying years led me back to Bach.
Yes.
And Bach is the father of us all, as you know. And it sounds very trivial, but I do believe it is the truth, because his a masterfully calculated precision, rich polyphonic texture, and on top of all that, the philosophical depth of his music actually opened endless possibilities for me as a composer, as a studying composer. I could see where I can develop and how I can grow. So currently, I would say, going through all the styles and genres, my musical style now is a blend. It's a blend of both the modern and the classical approach to composition. I find it important to have this core idea in my works, and around that idea evolves the whole piece. And I do believe that central thread in music, it grounds the composition. It doesn't let the composition fall apart. And it actually allows more organic development of complex musical structure. That's what I'm trying to do. Have it both structured, expressive, modern, but classically rooted.
Yes, and what are some notable performances or premieres of your compositions?
Well, lately I've been working a lot with other musical artists and also other artists as a whole, for example, dancers. And I've been commissioned to compose ballet, The Little Prince, based on the story of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And it was a long, long walk creating this ballet, going through all the world of dance that I knew nothing about it because that was my favorite. But I was successful, and it had been premiered in Bellevue in Maidenbauer Theater. It is now part of the repertoire of the ballet company, and it is going to be regularly staged through time. So I think it can be called quite a successful collaboration.
Yeah, that seems like a very good experience. That leads me to our next question, which is, what is the most unusual instrument or sound you've incorporated into a composition? Yes.
I did my fair share of experiments when I was studying modern music. And although that kind of didn't stick with what I'm doing right now, but I used the recorded sound of washing machines.
That's very interesting.
Very interesting, very new to me at that time. And I believe it was important to see what you can do with it, how you can play with this concept of time and relativity. You know, you can expand and shrink it. And if you use the repetitive sounds, mechanical repetitive sounds, it's very fun to me.
Yes. Would you say you use like more traditional instruments now in your pieces rather than these unusual ones?
Yeah, I would say so. But I am comfortable with writing in different styles. It just depends on the goal, on the idea. And I find the most suitable instruments to achieve the goal.
Yes. That makes sense. And have you explored any non-traditional venues or formats for showcasing your music?
Oh, yes. I would say the most non-traditional one was we were performing in a forest.
Oh.
It was the I come from a country, Armenia, and Armenia is famous for its rich history, its cultural traditions. And one of the beautiful places of Armenia is this monastery that is actually in a forest. And the monastery is not currently working as a monastery, it is more of a cultural heritage site. So we've been performing my music there open air at night. And that was marvelous because there was no roof. It was sort of in a ruined state. So you were performing under the stars. And that was amazing.
I wish I could go there and watch the performance of that piece. What was the piece, by the way, that was? It
was called The Ghosts of Kobayr Monastery. The name of the monastery is Kobayr. And, you feel this spooky sensation at night in a forest with ruins all around you. So I think the title addressed to that pretty accurately.
That is such an awesome experience. I really wish I could have went to that. So now moving on to the present, what projects or commissions are you currently preparing?
I am very excited. I'm working on a piano concerto. I've to compose a piano concerto, again rooted in the style of classical piano concertos, but combining the modern approach to that. And we are looking forward to completing this project sometime next year. I am still in the early stages, but we are supposed to have premiere in Australia. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yes, will you be traveling there to watch the premiere?
Yes, I hope I will.
That's great. And our eighth question, for today is, are there any specific themes or ideas you're using in your works?
I do try to explore the idea of a short motive, short concept that could expand and um, that could lead us to endless possibilities. This is again rooted in polyphony techniques that I've mentioned before. You know, when everything grows out of a seed of a short theme. I really love this technique, and it allows me to have fun because it's like a new toy. You know, you play with it. You don't know which ways you're gonna play with it, but there are so many, and you can explore endless possibilities and develop it to a full extent. I think it's very important, you know, to have fun, even if it's a commissioned work. It's not just a job.
Have you ever tried to write variations or something on someone else's theme? Has that been something you did?
Yeah, during my years of studies, I did my fair share, and variations are good when you study also the instruments. Because what I did, I think it was Brahms, one of the intermezzos. I took a theme and I made variations, but also for various instruments, because studying instruments for a composer is a vital skill that you need to constantly continue studying, because the times show different abilities of the instruments. Instruments evolve, and the way performers can lead their instruments towards more modern approach also evolves. So you have to follow along learning modern techniques. For that, variations are wonderful.
Yeah. What would you say is your most unique composition?
Ooh. I have a piece, you can call it a mono opera. It's about a woman. It's called Voices of Women, but it's for one performer. It's about women in generations, different times, and their short stories. So the performer has to transform, not only change its voice. So the soprano performer sings in very low register for one woman, in the mid register for another, and very high register for the last one. And each of them are different. So the performer has to be an actor, has to transform and represent three women, three stories, and how they are all arched by one theme, how a woman tries to survive in different times and express herself, express her inner soul, her world, to the full extent. So I love that piece, and I think it gives the performer and the audience unique possibilities to be someone else, you know, to transform into many, many people at once and perceive many people in various ways.
May I ask, what were the time periods that you used for these women?
It's medieval, then it's the early Romanticism and modern.
Okay. Yes, and was this was just a piece for one woman, right, as I understand?
Yeah.
And there was no music accompanying that?
No, there is, it's accompanied by ensemble. There flute, there is a violin, and there is a piano. And again, in each time period, one of the instruments takes the leading role. And again, the performer connects with the instrument that represents her, like embodies her. So a flute embodies the medieval woman. and the other two instruments are more on the background. Then, of course, early Romanticism is a violin, and then the modern piano.
That's a really cool piece. Has this been performed somewhere?
Yes, we've performed that piece in a festival. It was a couple of years ago, I think. And that was the only time actually it has been performed, but I'm open to more performances. It requires the performer to have a very wide vocal range and ability to change not only the range, but also the timbre, the tone color of the voice, the style of performance. So it's quite challenging for the soloist.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, thank you for sharing about this piece. And now we're going to move on to our very last question, which is, what is the best advice you've received as a composer?
Frankly, there's no best advice. There were many advices, and some of them were good because they were wrong. Mm-hmm. And they led me to finding the right one. So I would say, if you would just combine them all, don't listen to anybody. Best advice, yourself. Just find yourself and continue exploring your own possibilities, your own path as a musician.
Mm-hmm. So when you mean don't listen to anybody, you mean like the opinions of others or music?
No. Listen to music. Listen to a lot of music. Never stop listening to music. No. Don't listen to anybody is because you as a composer are not going to invent a bicycle. Mm-hmm. And people who would see that in you would tell you, why are you doing this all together? You're not inventing the bicycle. It has been already invented. You're not Beethoven. You are not even close to anybody. And you don't know who you are going to be. So why are you here? Why won't you go and become somebody else where you can be stable, you can be independent, and you can be financially successful? It's very tempting. Don't listen to them. If you feel strongly about yourself, and if you feel strongly about your path as a musician, the moment you start asking yourself those questions, why am I here? If there are these giants that have already lived and created and left the legacy, and I am not even going to try to compete with anyone there, the moment you start asking those questions is the moment you lose yourself. That's why when people start asking you and advising you to look into some other careers, the only thing you should ask yourself is, do you really want to do this? Yes. Go for it. No. That's okay. But if yes, then don't listen to anyone. But do listen to a lot of music.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's great advice, and I will listen to that. So, okay, that was our last question. So I just want to thank you for doing this interview with me, and I wish you the best of luck in your career and in everything you do. So thank you so much.
Good luck, Nina.
Thank you. I'll see you next time.
See you. Bye.